We're going to be taking you through the progress of our black comedy feature film.
Who are you, by the way? Nobody knows who we are.
What this is a DIY cinema podcast for DIY filmmakers. The idea is that you don't wait for permission, you just start.
This is our first feature film, something we're going to do together. You're going to get it warts and all.
So we just go into it?
I kind of think we could.
This is DIY Cinema Cult.
Hello Aaron, how you doing? Nice to see you again.
Hello, mate. How's it going?
Yeah, all right, not too bad. No hangovers.
No
mate.
hangovers.
No hangovers this time.
No, exactly. We're saying that, aren't we? Because we did have a terrible hangover after the very first podcast we did.
First episode was a bit of... We got very excited, I think, about that one.
And it wasn't really the fault of the drinking during the podcast. It was the getting excited after the podcast drinking bit, wasn't it?
Yeah. We listened back to it, didn't we? And then we had a couple more gins while we listened to it. And then
we went and got another bottle.
Yeah, we did. But no more, not drinking like that this time, mate, because I have a little baby.
You've got some addition to the
my
family.
My little baby's come, and so I'm going to be up most of the night, just kind of pacing around the room with him. So can't be drunk doing that. You can't. Drunk parenting is bad.
It's not good.
I would not advise
it's
that.
Not a good look. It's not a good style.
No.
And we met little baby Jude the other day.
You did, yeah.
And my girls were absolutely over the moon.
They were so sweet with him.
Ida, my youngest one, was calling him her baby Judy, and she was thinking about him all for the rest of the day. And she said, my favourite bit of the day was with baby Judy.
Oh, that's sweet. Is she available for babysitting? That's what I don't know.
Another 10 years and then it's legal. Sadly, not just yet. But that has been amazing news. But you've still been busy doing other things as well.
Yeah, so Chewing Gum Man's gone
very well.
Yeah, so just received some news yesterday that it's gonna be sold to a broadcaster, which is amazing. So it's going to get on telly early next in the new year.
And I think what's interesting for our listeners, all of them, is that it was an entirely independent and pirate entity, as we've been talking about in this podcast. You just went and did it. You found out you had a great idea, you met the right character to do it, and you've made it pretty much on a shoestring. I mean, there was no budget as far as I can gather.
There was absolutely no budget apart from what I could kind of rustle up at my own personal account to pay various people who kind of came in and helped me out along the way. But the budget was non-existent. There was nothing. And then I think that's what gave me a great deal of satisfaction yesterday when I heard the news that I'd sold it, was that it was a complete indie kind of venture. There was no client, there was no marketing department. I'm my own distributor and press agent, and eventually did sell this, and for a little bit of money, and it just feels like, I don't know, you kind of feel validated, I suppose, in a sense, that you're kind of doing the right thing and going along the right track somewhat, and also that you can do things like this completely independently.
And I mean, it's a lovely film with obviously a great sort of lead character and a fantastic story, and I think it will really appeal. And I think what's been nice about it, obviously, there has been the screenings, and then you've kind of done another version based upon new events that have happened and kind of updated the story a little bit. So it's an unfolding story in some way, and because you're close to the lead character, you can do things like that. You can still kind of follow him up, but it's fantastic. I mean, it's a great achievement to get something. It's been in a few festivals. I know you're going to another festival in a few weeks as well.
Yeah, I'm heading to Belgium in a fortnight, so we're going to go and play it there and do a Q&A and that kind of thing. And that's the part of the whole process I always forget, is the tail end. It's the showing of your film and the festivals and going out and meeting people and seeing their and feeling their reactions to the film. So I can't wait, because I'm really looking forward to getting this in front of people and hearing their feedback and just getting in conversations with them, you know.
And what's lovely, I think, about the film festival experience, even though there's a lot of debate upon how much it really matters to a film. Does it really matter if you've done loads of festivals in terms of sales or all the rest of it? And then obviously online, there's 1,000,001 ways to distribute your film online, and a lot of chasing of those eyeballs online. But I think the experience of the festival is very interesting because, one, I always think that it's the closest it gets to kind of being in a band or something, as in you've made your art and then you get up there and you play it to people and people react. And that's what happens in a band. It's kind of it's instant. Whereas when you make anything televisual, and we do a lot of other things, commercial and charity and otherwise, you kind of you let it go into the world, and then you might get a few likes, or you might get no response whatsoever, or you just get the check or through the mail, etc., and that's the only real feedback you get from that thing. So the film festival experience has always been really lovely, because you get to hear people laugh in the right places, or you get to chat to people afterwards, and it's often a good networking kind of experience as well. And we've still got friends like our friend Jeff, who we work with together, who I met through the film festival circuit on previous films. So it's a great way of building a kind of a network and an audience potentially for future films. But also it's just a fun validation of your project.
Yeah, exactly. You get to meet the audience. They literally come up to you straight after the screening, tell you what they thought. Sometimes not after the screening. Sometimes it might be the next night. If you're kind of lingering around a festival, they'll come up to you and go, "Oh, hey, you were the guy with that such and such a film," and you spark up conversations. And also you're meeting other filmmakers, and you're meeting people who have been going down the same road that you have. And sometimes as a filmmaker, even though you have a crew around you of varying sizes, it might be a small crew, might be a massive crew, but there's often times you kind of feel quite lonely in your kind of venture in a way. You feel a bit crazy. You kind of come up with this idea. You've gone to all this bother to kind of make this kind of, whether it be a documentary or a piece of narrative filmmaking, to make it a reality. And it's not really a normal thing to do.
It's quite lonely.
It is quite lonely. So when you go to a film festival, you just meet lots of other crazy people like you who've got the same kind of idea and passions, and it's you really kind of vibe off those other filmmakers when you're there. It's quite inspiring.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you've done the kind of distribution of your films have you done it through these sort of online systems? Because obviously there's quite, in the old days you'd have to send DVDs out, but it's all changed, and there's been controversy as to the costs involved in a lot of these online platforms, without a box, etc. So how have you been doing it?
It's strange. I mean, I have done it through Without a Box in the past, and then I've done it recently through Without a Box and Film Freeway. Because Without a Box now I think it's disappearing. So.
I don't think a lot of people will be particularly sad to see its demise.
No, I mean, my last experience, I'm trying to think. With Chewing Gum Man, I hardly go into any festivals through those means. And the one I am going to in Belgium was through someone who knew of someone who was working on the festival. I went through that way. It was more of a word of mouth thing,
because it's a real big job to get your films into festivals, even through these platforms. I mean,
and it's getting harder and harder because there's just so many films out. It's so saturated, short films. I thought I might have an easier ride this time with a documentary, and it just wasn't the case. It's just so hard to get into any festivals. And what you probably find is if you get into a big festival, if you're lucky enough to get into a big festival, like a big name festival, then what will happen is programmers from other festivals will be visiting that festival, and you'll be invited to other festivals. So, but unless you get into one of those big festivals and the ball starts rolling, it's really hard to kind of break in, actually. Sometimes people just think it's a given. I'll make a film, I'll send it out to a bunch of festivals, I'll do about 20 or 30 festivals. But it's just not the case. It's so hard to kind of access the festivals these days.
we seem to have a helicopter kind of circling over us.
Yeah.
That just means that we're authentically in North London, and we're not in a kind of our suite in the Bahamas or in Hollywood just yet. And this is all retroactive.
So, Aaron, your documentary, you sent me through a very interesting trailer you cut for it recently.
Yeah, so I mean, we talked a little bit about my film in the last time we did our podcast recording. And it's this film about the early 90s free party movement, raves. And I've just, again, in a sort of similarly pirate DIY fashion, I've just been plugging away at doing this between paid projects. But as a consequence, I've done quite a lot of interviews. And I've also been gathering archive as much as I could with no budget, to try to get to the point where I can show what the film might be like. Because the film is potentially 60 minutes or even longer, at the moment, the best way for me to kind of demonstrate what that film is going to be like is to cut a taster. In the old days, they used to call it a taster tape. And for documentaries, this is a fairly tried and tested kind of process, that you cut a taster tape. And that might just be made up of pre-existing material, or you might go and shoot some stuff, or it may be a kind of compilation of archive, but basically trying to get the idea across, the story across, with a little bit of a kind of a teaser element to it, as in making people want to kind of get more, to watch more, but at the same time demonstrating your chops as a filmmaker. And so I've been shooting a lot of interviews. I've interviewed some really fascinating people. I've been in Berlin. I'm going off to Nottingham next week, and I've been filming a lot of sort of what people are doing now. So 30 years ago was this huge explosion of the sort of free party acid house kind of meeting the traveller culture sort of thing that got into the news and was all over the press. And it's kind of coming up to an anniversary, which is why I feel like the film is good timing. And a lot of the people I'm talking to are kind of the first time they're reminiscing properly about this stuff. It's nice to get it to the point where it's almost ready. It's in people. I can now show it to people rather than to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, the trailer looked absolutely brilliant. I think I'd seen an early cut of it, and it had just leaps and bounds for the one I saw a couple of days ago. And it just already looks like a film I really, really want to see. So I think you've done a great job on the trailer. How did you find it when you were interviewing kind of the old guys from back in the day, and those sound systems and those guys from the free party times? How did you find them? Were they quite open to talking about that kind of stuff? Had they had many people come by and asking questions about it before? Or?
Well, it's an interesting one, because obviously there's a certain level of illegality involved in what their life and their culture was.
Yeah.
There's certainly the drug side of it, and there's also the fact that they were breaking into places, they were throwing things in non-licensed, non-ticketed types of events. It was an anarchic culture.
Were they suspicious of you because they've probably been kind of cast badly in the past?
Well, that's certainly the case, that in the past they've been described and sort of the story has been told in a kind of denigrating kind of fashion. Particularly the sort of traveller side of them, because they really were persecuted as a group. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And I've got clips of John Major effectively saying we're going to crush this group of people in society. But generally it was a lot of discussion with them, so lots of emails, lots of text, lots of explanation as to what I wanted to do, and then in some cases a pre-interview over the phone, which sometimes were quite expensive. I spoke to a guy in Berlin, and he clearly didn't want to speak to me over Skype,
right?
And he didn't want to speak to me over just any kind of internet. He wanted to speak to me on the phone, and I had to effectively prove that I wasn't going to do a hatchet job, and that the story was interesting because I have a deep sort of connection to it, and I really want to give it the best kind of credence and the best kind of overview I can. But at the same time, I can't offer people their story only. I'm going to give my story, and my story will be an amalgamation of all of these stories. And in some ways, I'm going with the fact that a lot of the time these stories are kind of a bit hazy. You know, there's no photography, there's no film of a lot of this stuff. So I'm kind of going with the fact that it's in a way it's a folk history. I did have an interesting one on Facebook. This is a kind of a word of warning for other filmmakers. I kind of blind posted in a specific forum where there was 25,000 people of a specific sound system. I won't mention the name. Obviously, seriously passionate people who it was a great part of their kind of formative years, and I got a lot, and I mean a lot of negative comments, as in,
oh wow,
who is this guy? Is he some sort of police? Is he?
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of conspiracy theory stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of people kind of basically, not happy that I was asking questions about their past. So it was a real lesson to me, because I had to then spend the next few days really, really kind of making sure everybody understood where I was coming from, and then kind of gluing in the people that they already know as part of the scene, the sort of, I suppose, people that they look up to, and, vetting me in some way.
Yeah.
And I got there, and everybody's cool now. But it was a lesson to me that actually don't assume you can just, as a filmmaker, just start asking a bunch of questions in a public forum for your project, because actually people are quite suspicious, and they're particularly suspicious online. We know what the situation is these days, data harvesting and all of that, and there's certainly an awareness now of, anything done publicly, there is a risk element. So that's definitely been a bit of an eye-opener.
Yeah, man.
You are listening to the debut feature film podcast. This is DIY Cinema Cult.
So routine. So we had a script read through, didn't we, a couple of weeks ago with a bunch of actor mates.
Yeah, and it was great, because
it was great just to hear it out, the pages out loud. I think we did about maybe 2/3 or just under of the script. We did a couple of big sections of it, anyways.
And it was interesting because it kind of whizzed through, as in,
yeah.
I mean, we were there for maybe an hour, but we whizzed through it, and it sounded great.
It sounded good, and it was so good to get the actors' feedback as well on it, and just, I mean, it was great in, obviously on one side, just to hear it out loud, the actors to breathe life into the lines and to hear them out loud. You could hear the things that were working, you could hear the things that weren't working, you could hear when maybe things would get a bit too wordy, you can chop down, but also it was just good to hear their feedback on what their perception of the character and the writing was. That was always, I always find that fascinating when you hear actors' point of view on it, because then it's just, and I love it to be critical too, but just hearing their perspective from the other side, saying, well, this is kind of what, and sometimes they read things that you weren't intending at all. Yeah. Some things they really get it, and then sometimes they don't get it. When they don't get it, that's just as interesting, because you kind of go, oh, okay, maybe that, that's funny that you kind of, that's your kind of,
certain things aren't leaping off the page to you in the same way.
Yeah. So it was good. It was such a useful thing to do, and I want to do some more of those actually as we go forward, I think.
And how do you think it informed the kind of any tweaks or rewrites on the script?
I think it made me just, writing a script and then hearing a script is two, obviously very different things. Hearing it, you just hear if you are just putting too much literally words on the page. Like you think, I can just lift some of this off. The character doesn't need to be saying all of this. We can just suggest some things here. It can be done with, it can be done in other means. It doesn't have to be so wordy.
Yeah.
So there were certainly some parts where I just felt it was feeling a little bit wordy and it was a bit chewy in the actors' mouths. But so that's kind of the rewriting I've done. The other thing I've done recently, the rewrite that I did after that script read through, was just the Emma character in there, who is this kind of first time comic.
We've sort of been beefing her up a little bit.
Yeah, she's way more of a kind of, she's there to be that she's a social media influencer who's doing her first a stand-up gig. So instead of just being a girl who is a very nervous girl doing her first stand-up gig, she's this girl who's is doing the first stand-up gig to for her content on her social media channel. She's got 45,000 followers or something like that. So she is really the star of the.
She's the person that people know the most. It's just who happens to be online.
Because in previous drafts of the script, there was her as the first time stand up. She was very nervous, and then her character kind of develops a little bit throughout the film too. And she's there to the climax. Then there was these other characters in the audience who were filming the whole night on their phones, and they were the ones that were kind of uploading pictures, and that's how the kind of night, the events of the night, Don Morby taking his audience hostage, go slightly viral or go.
We haven't told them all the secrets yet, have we?
No. Have I given too much away there? But maybe I'll snip some of that out. But now Emma has become solely that character who actions all those things within the story. So that's kind of the biggest kind of change. And
I think it kind of adds an extra dimension to the script because it kind of makes a nod to, I suppose, Don's character, who's from the old school, and he's in a way really is kind of at the end of his kind of the end of his kind of professional kind of career in some way, or if it was ever professional, but he's not the cutting edge. He's on the way out in some way, and this is his last stab in a way at kind of making it work. Whereas she's just this kind of new thing that old farts like us don't really understand, but it feels really relevant to talk about because obviously there are people on Vine and people on, even Vine's dead now, isn't it? But TikTok and these new things where they've got 5 million subscribers and they're comedians. Yeah. But actually,
I've heard of this thing called MySpace.
I've heard of MySpace. Your space or MySpace? I've actually noticed I've still got a MySpace account.
Oh, bless you!
It's terrifying, isn't it? I wouldn't know how to log in. I think Tom is still my only friend. But there are people who are TikTok comedians who have never been on a stage, and have never actually even performed in front of other people, but are way more successful in some ways than anybody who you've ever seen, or anybody that would have even been big back in the comedies, the new rock and roll days.
My sons who are 12 and 9, they're into watching lots of stuff on YouTube now, and a lot of it is kind of comedy content, people who just do their own sketches. And the thing is, what I've noticed is very interesting. Their sense of humour is being affected by the style, the tempo of the editing that you get on YouTube, which tends to be these kind of online comics. It's a very short, snappy. It's very highly edited. It's very jump cutty. Their sense of humour is slightly affected almost by the tempo of the comedy that they see on YouTube.
That's really interesting.
Which is kind of interesting. So it's a weird new world, mate.
It is
strange.
And I think what that reminds me of in a way is thinking that there was a time where, particularly with people like Vic and Bob, that there was a kind of a surreal slowness to the comedy, as well as who was the guy who was on Vic and Bob, who had like crazy curly hair, who's on
Simon Munnery.
No. He was on Vic and Bob. He was on, not just the big night out. He was the regular comedian, and he would speak really slowly, and he'd tell the same joke over and over again. Can you remember who he was?
Was he? He wasn't the guy in the new series. He was in the original.
In the original one. Now it was because what I always thought about it was that it was kind of acid house humor, as in he literally said the same thing over and over again, like all dance music, but somehow it got funnier and funnier the more he said it, as in the same way that dance music somehow, when it's done well, somehow hearing the same thing over and over again kind of gets better and better as you listen to more. And I'm wondering if that's such a polar opposite of our... I'm going to have to try and remember who this guy was. He used to do a joke about his ducks that died. Anyway,
it's so true. That is what their sense of humour is. And if you follow Vic and Bob on social media now, I've recently started following... I'm not on Twitter very much, but the last time I went on, I started following Jim Moir. That's his name, isn't it? Vic Reeves' his real name.
Oh, yeah.
Jim Moir. So I started following him.
Jim Reeves, no.
No. I think it's Moir, Moir.
Is that him just saying Jim as in moi?
Jim
As in,
moi, I don't
it's
know.
me, Jim.
I want to fact check this and then and then edit this bit out.
Yeah, we better. He'll come in. It will sound really different because you'll have to do it on your phone.
Yeah.
Jim Reeves.
Jim
Reeves.
But he's got these brilliant videos where it's just one shot and
Yeah.
it's his poor suffering kids or wife having to be the camera person for these videos that he just does. He's not with a crew. It's just him on this iPhone, just he entertaining himself.
Yeah.
And it's someone like one of his kids filming him, and they're in America at some aircraft museum, and it's all outdoors, and there's these big jets, all these kind of big military jets on the tarmac, and people are going around reading the little signs of the information on them, and he's going around with a piece of cardboard that he's ripped off some box somewhere and a pen. And he's stood there as if he's sketching the plane onto the cardboard, but of course he's just scratching deeper and deeper these gouges into the cardboard. He's not making any kind of impression that looks anything like a plane, but he's just scratching into this cardboard very close to these other kind of American tourists who are just being really weirded out by him.
Yeah.
And that's all it is, and it's fucking brilliant. I
Yeah.
love it.
It's, I don't know, but this is it. Well, this probably is why we're more Don than Emma.
Yeah,
in some ways,
absolutely.
in that we're from a different era, sadly.
When cardboard scratching was funny.
It was funny, exactly.
DIY Cinema Club.
You very kindly got me some tickets to a film festival.
Oh yeah.
And but you couldn't come obviously because your baby was about 4 minutes old. So
that's right. Yeah.
So wisely you said, actually no, I've got to be at home for my new little one.
Yeah, it was just newborn, wasn't he?
A little bit early. So my friend Jeff, our friend Jeff, said, oh yeah, I'll be up for it as well. And filmmakers night out. We thought, oh right. And actually, we didn't have any idea of what we were going to see. You just said, oh, it's some indie
It was
film.
an indie feature. Yeah, I thought because the plan was that me and you were going to go and see it as a bit of inspiration.
Maybe something to chat about on the podcast.
Yeah.
Particularly because there was a Q&A and they were talking about how you get a kind of indie film made, and actually that side of it was quite interesting. Because the filmmakers had there was a nice cinemas in North London, and there was free chocolate sitting on
what more do you want?
Which a little bit like Ratso from Midnight Cowboy. Me and Jeff kind of went and hoovered up all of the spare ones at the end.
Pockets.
Oh, I just got to take a seat over here. We came out with about four bars of Green and Blacks at the end of it.
Nice.
Green and Blacks could sponsor this podcast, of course. But,
God, they were laying on free chocolate.
Free chocolate, free Green and Blacks. So and it was quite a nice cinema. So I was quite impressed by the sort of setting.
You thought free chocolate. This film is
going to be
fucking
kicking,
brilliant.
Absolutely kicking. And indie film, and the actors were on stage. Lovely, seemed very lovely. The director guy seemed he's quite funny. I thought, I'm looking forward to this. The first shot happened, and I knew straight away this was going to be absolutely fucking terrible.
Oh no!
When you realise that someone has just not ever paid any attention to first of all what things might look good, as in what looks good when you point a camera in the direction of a person.
Oh no!
They hadn't done that. They were in a room that was effectively like a white room.
Yeah.
It got worse from there on in. And it was absolutely shocking. I kept looking around at Jeff, kind of apologising, and then kind of like secretly again.
I feel guilty now.
Secretly again with my eyes saying to Jeff, but it's Marc's fault. He got the free tickets.
You wrote him a little note in the darkness.
It's Marc's fault.
This, Jeff.
Thankfully, as an indie film goes, it wasn't very long. It was an hour and 14 minutes or something like that. So we were like done. After the Q&A, we were done. But as again, Jeff's just had a new baby, so he's a filmmaker, not wanting to waste a Monday night out. So we went and saw the Joker or Joker afterwards, just round the corner.
Before we talk about the Joker, I just want to ask you. So, did they disclose what kind of budget they had on this?
Well,
feature?
what they said was the film that he'd done before which I'm guessing was another in the same sort of genre. It was a kind of a horror movie.
Yeah.
The film that they'd done before, they had a 12 grand budget for a feature.
Okay.
So, which struck me as, well, bloody hell, that's not much. But then when you saw what they'd done, you kind of got why. Because basically, if you ask actors to do something for nothing for 4 weeks, 4 weeks, and then you don't use a cameraman, you just do whatever yourself. I mean, maybe he used a cameraman, but they proudly said at the end, shot on the Blackmagic camera. I'm giving too much away, aren't they? Because a detective would be able to understand what this movie is. Shot on the Blackmagic camera, and I thought, oh man, please, you just didn't shoot it with any. There was no aesthetics at all.
Oh.
Not that that's the important thing. The story is the important thing, of course, but they didn't bother.
Oh, no.
But anyway, I think it was probably a similar-ish budget, but I don't know how they got the money. I don't imagine anybody gave them the money. I'd imagine that they did it on a credit card. To be totally honest, I can't imagine that they actually got any funding from anywhere. But that's just a guess.
Yeah.
To purge ourselves in a way of a bad night's cinema, although we had a pocket full of chocolate.
Yeah.
We went to see
You
Joker.
ate green and blacks in front of the Joker. Now, what did you think of the Joker? I absolutely bloody loved it.
It was a fantastic film. Not entirely perfect, but I mean, I'm clutching at straws because there were so many amazing things about it. Obviously, there was a side of me which was a little bit like, a film about a comedian who's a bit of a failed comedian.
Yeah.
And he kind of might go a little bit crazy. I did think, they're stealing our thunder a little bit. What did you think about that?
I mean, it did cross my mind, but it was very, very, very different at the end of the day. Don's character and the Joker.
Yeah.
I mean, there were just tastes of it, and the fact that we were sat in a comedy club, and there was scenes set in those those kind of spaces, and he was kind of failing a bit awfully at his act as well.
Yeah,
but
actually, I think he was shitter than Don.
He was much shitter than Don. Yeah, Don's
he was
a little
somebody
bit funnier than
I
him.
think Joker had never got up on stage and ever really done it. It was all like in his head, right?
Well, I mean, the lovely thing was that it showed his disconnect to humour, basic humour of real human beings, and it's going to highlight that disconnect he had with people around him.
Yeah.
The fact that what he thought was funny just wasn't very funny. What he kind of thought was amusing, people were never going to connect with.
But there were some lovely moments. I think the
so
moments where he kind of found his sort of reverie.
Yes.
And he was kind of, what is he doing? Is he dancing? Is he
love
doing
those scenes.
martial art? He was somehow drifting in a kind of bliss. They were astonishing.
Amazing.
Because I think usually everything has to be, particularly Hollywood films, have to be so plot driven. You don't have those moments for just pure atmosphere and emotion, and it did that.
Yeah.
I thought so well, where you were suddenly, wow, you were just feeling his feeling, and
yes, I thought it was great. Such a good movie.
and I mean, massive nods obviously to previous films. King of Comedy being
King
something
comedy,
that's
I
a
couldn't
big.
stop thinking about that, particularly because you got Mr. De Niro there.
De Niro's there. I mean, they weren't hiding the homage in any
No.
way, and also obviously Taxi Driver, and that seemed kind of interesting because the last Joaquin Phoenix film that I was really impressed by was the Lynn Ramsey film. Have you ever seen it?
Yes, you were never
really there.
It's an amazing movie.
Which again is like, he's almost the same guy. He's
Yeah.
just a lot thinner in this one, and he laughs a lot more. Whereas in the other one, he's basically, I don't know, it's not the same character, but he's in the same sort of situation. He's got his mum who he loves. True.
That's true.
It's
Actually, I
kind
hadn't
of
thought about that.
it's kind of an odd one, but very and that film had a massive nod to Taxi Driver as well. So
I just had a thought of something we talked about a while ago. This is a completely different subject now.
yeah,
Back to routine again. We had a little thought, maybe, didn't we, of a kind of pie in the sky future little plan to go to Cannes Film Festival next year.
Is it already next year?
Yeah.
Oh, we already screwed it.
No. Well, no, it's not next year yet.
Oh, as in, yeah.
As in next
year.
Next
yeah,
festival.
yeah.
All right, because I bumped into, I met up with a mate of mine, Robbie Samuels, who's a filmmaker, very, very lovely guy. It might be a guy we could have on the podcast, actually. he's been a couple of times, and he was chatting to me, and he was saying, so what are you doing? I was telling him about routine, and he was saying, how much money do you think you need? And I said, X amount of money. He was saying, then I'd start describing our idea of doing some kind of web series before we get into the film proper, one that can raise profile, draw in a bit more funding, that thing, create a bit of an audience,
create buzz.
I mean, his reaction was a little bit disheartening. He was a bit like, well, what the fuck are you doing that for? Just make the film. I was going, but we blah blah blah. And I was trying to going through what we talked about before, and he was like, listen, you go, have you been to Cannes? And I was like, well, I mean, you have, Aaron, haven't you? You've been once.
I have, yeah. Actually, my mum's kind of retirement, like little kind of cottagey thing, is about 10 kilometers. So I've kind of been and stayed in her little caravan, and then gone to the festival to kind of just lurk around and
which is why I'm thinking we could go. Listen, mate, we could swap your shed for your mum's caravan. Cannes. We could do Cannes on the cheap.
Yeah.
And basically try and sell this fucking film to people and get some money. What do you reckon?
Well, sounds good. I mean, what did your mate? What was the tips that your mate said? Because obviously,
so basically, Robbie was saying, listen, go to Cannes, go with some kind of package, development package, or kind of package for your film. He said he ran into people who were there who, he wasn't being unkind towards these people, but he was saying he said he'd meet them at the beginning of the week. They had a package that he didn't really think was that outstanding or fantastic, or he didn't really, he wasn't really drawn in by the idea that they were trying to make a film about. And by the end of the week, they would have maybe 20, 30, 40,000 pounds of investment. So he was saying, look, if you've got a solid idea, be prepared, go with a good package, make sure you're ready to kind of meet people, just chat about your film. And he said, his thing was like, it's going to be so hard to find money here. You need to go somewhere where there's going to be other investors, and like a film festival like the Cannes Film Festival. So that just planted. I think that day after meeting him for lunch, I sent you an email, and I was like, mate, how about we do this next time round?
Well, we've got the digs.
We got the digs. We got a place to stay.
We might need to get the kind of dicky bow tie and the
everybody wears
suit.
like pale, kind of pale cash suits and deck shoes, don't they?
Well, unless you've got to go to one of the kind of screenings, and then you've got to really glam up.
Oh fuck!
They don't let you in unless you're looking pretty spiffing. But we could just be one of those many kind of lurkers and hustlers on the Croisette that are kind of shoving their idea in people's faces. It's worth going just for the experience. It's a proper freak show. And
let's do it. That'd be one hell of a podcast.
We could do it, couldn't we? We could take the gear with us, and I think, there's no doubt about it. It would make a good podcast, even if we didn't raise any dosh.
Yeah,
we might spend all of the budget just on kind of trying to get into parties.
What this is, it's a DIY cinema podcast for DIY filmmakers.
We are DIY Cinema Cult.
Well, are we going to have a martini, do you reckon?
Oh yeah, I think it's about that time. So, do you want to do the honours?
Shall I do the honours?
Yeah. So there's going to be a little phase here where there's clinking and bashing going on. So I've got this idea that if you put an entire satsuma into a gin and tonic rather than just a slice of lemon, that in fact turns it into a health drink. And the gin and the toxic elements of the alcohol are counteracted by the vitamin C and the natural sugar in there.
We need a mixer, don't we? A mixing thing.
Oh, have we not got actually any of the stuff that we need?
No, I might be able to do a bit of a. Do you know what? I'm going to do a
jazzy
campsite martini. Ready?
Campsite martini sounds about like us. He's now going outside the shed. You can chuck it outside if that's what you do. He's now pouring whatever on earth he's just put in there outside.
I'm so sorry, man.
That's all right. It's making good podcast, good radio. And so now we vaguely have the ambience of the martini. Yeah. Well, cheers, I think.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
I had a question actually. I was thinking on the way up. I wanted your opinion on something.
Oh God,
Is that very strong? Just something that was on my mind. I wanted to ask you about it. The idea of filmmaker, right? Labeling yourself as a filmmaker. Have you
yeah.
ever had a problem with that in the past? You know, say on social media or what have you nowadays, people often have to kind of tag themselves as what they are. You want to put forward an image for clients and stuff. Cool. I've often found, you know, remember, was it Robert Rodriguez said once, you know, if you want to be a filmmaker, go out, get a business card, print filmmaker on it, you're a filmmaker.
Yeah.
Which I love the sentiment behind that. But also, I'm a bit worried about that, like that. I wouldn't want to go to a dentist who had just gone out and printed the business card with dentist written on it. Do you know what I mean? Because he's not a dentist yet. So I'm often...
Well, you are a filmmaker. You have made films.
Yeah, I have. But then there's often times where I'm not making films and I'm a dormant filmmaker.
But there are times when the dentist is not pulling teeth out of people's faces.
That's true. Well, that's true, yeah.
And there's times when the dentist is, you know, on the loo. And there's times where the dentist is eating a kebab on the way home on a Saturday night.
I mean, I love the incentive behind what Robert Rodriguez was saying, because it is that just fucking do it, get up and start something.
Which is
like what we're saying.
Yeah.
And so I can completely get on board with that, but there is just the flip side of it. I just worry about because I throughout my whole career have had anxiety about calling myself a filmmaker, only because I go through long periods of time where I'm working in TV companies and, you know, working in broadcast design where I'm working in animation or I'm working in design. And I'm trying to get projects off the ground, but nothing's really happening. And I'm like going, do I call myself a filmmaker? Because I'm not really making any films. And the reason why this is in my mind right now is because selling the documentary yesterday, potentially early stages, last night I had this wonderful feeling, which was complete lack of anxiety about calling myself a filmmaker. I felt like I was really actively doing something. You know, when you sell, when you make a product and then it sells, and you kind of go, bang, that's what it is. I'm kind of I'm that job, I'm that person, I'm that link in the chain.
You're over the imposter syndrome, isn't it? It's the imposter syndrome, which I think which haunts us all, or it doesn't haunt you, and you're either a kind of a person who just blags their way happily through life, or you just believe you're going to get there, I suppose.
It's interesting, but it'd be interesting to see what kind of like listeners think, because a lot of the people listening to this podcast will be filmmakers who are trying to make a start, or maybe they've made the start, and how they feel about promoting themselves. We're a couple of English guys, maybe self-promotion's a little bit more difficult to us than maybe people from other cultural backgrounds. Maybe we are a bit more conservative in that sense. I don't know, maybe not. I mean, I remember when I started, I was a runner. I was working on commercial shoots and film shoots where it was very hard. It was big productions and big production value, so you were made aware on a daily of your position in that hierarchy, and it was very, very low, and you were the T-boy, but as long as you kind of knew that and worked very hard in that level, you could probably step up.
And I mean, it may be that there's a certain element of the democratizing aspect of, you know, anyone can be a TikTok comedian, anyone can be a YouTube superstar now, because you can learn how to point a camera, to set up a light, you can learn how to mic something up from YouTube, and then you can have 20 million subscribers to your channel, and then you're a filmmaker. And that's just the way it is. But it just depends whether the films that you're making are the films, I suppose, that we would think that we would aspire to make, which is storytelling, which isn't I think a lot of YouTube stars are telling their story, but they're telling their story with them in it. And they're telling them their story with themselves as the main character, literally in real life. Whereas we potentially, I suppose, are interested in other people's stories through our eyes, or telling stories that are of an interest, or, you know, fascinate us in some way. So it's a good debate. I think it's something we should try to pass on to our listeners in some way, and see what their thoughts are on the idea of calling yourself a filmmaker, and also whether there is a legitimate difference between YouTube generation who are making films in some ways, or making video or content. I hate that word content, I have to say. It really sends shivers down my spine, because it's a bit like, putting some cheese in your sandwich. What's the content of your sandwich? The content of my sandwich is some cheese and some some pickles. No, it's a cheese sandwich. That's the story of your sandwich.
What's the inciting incident of your cheese sandwich then?
Yeah, the inciting incident of my cheese sandwich was I felt this rumble in my tummy, and then I thought of my past.
And there was a bit of a flashback.
It's a flashback. It was just a smell of previous times, and I just suddenly thought, now is the time for that cheese sandwich.
Okay, so filmmaking. So yeah.
So filmmakers.
So yeah, be interested to see what people think about how they're happy to call themselves filmmakers. Fuck it, we are filmmakers. Bollocks.
Fuck it, we are.
Yeah.
DIY pirate says, fuck it, I own this place.
Yeah.
That's what the pirates say. They say this. No, they don't say they own this. They say this place has no owners. I occupy this space, and I make it what I wish.
Yeah.
Do you like the sound of that?
I like the sound of that. That's beautiful.
And this shed
is our domain.
Is our domain. It has no owner, but we make it what we wish.
Yeah. Apart from you kind of own it.
Okay, I kind of own it in the traditional way. But
so you're pirate captain. What am I then? I'm like the.
Oh, we're both captains.
Okay.
This is an anarchic democratic, an anarcho-democratic kind of. We're like the Starship Enterprise. We're basically a big collective, but one person does get to sit in the big chair quite regularly.
Yeah. Okay. That's good.
And on this film, it's you. You're the director.
Yeah, I suppose.
But then the producer, in theory, can always fire the director.
And get someone better to do the job.
Right, Marky.
All right. Well, cheers, mate. Let's end it there.
Cheers.
Follow us on Twitter at DIY Cinema Cult, or on Instagram we are DIY_cinema_cult. Seek out the DIY Cinema Cult group on Facebook, or why not email us at DIYcinemacult@gmail.com. Follow us.